like sometimes I'm really flying high, but I have a lot of dreams where I'm just skimming the ground and going up and down stuff, but I'm afraid to fly. And I have a nephew who has a pilot's license, and I posted this on Facebook, and his mother posted me back, "Look, I'll take you flying." That was a white knuckle event, but I can now say I have been flying.
So you did do it.
Yes, and I started, so I have my Any Man series, and I tell little stories with them, and except for this first one, I haven't written the story yet, but if you want to pass those around, it tells the story that I tell, and I forgot to mention, I have a mental health illness, and so when I was making these stories and making this, it was like kind of my own therapy. And issues that would come up in my therapy, I would either paint or sculpt. And so that has helped me out a lot. So when I do the Any Man, I get the 200-foot sheet foil, and I start building a head, and they have to be kind of flat. So then when I get the head to the size I want it, I will do this. And there's my head and neck. And then the next thing that I do will be the legs.
You're basically making your own armature.
Yes, yes. And so I'll come up with this, and then I have my legs. And then I will with the arms, but sometimes on the arms, on the when I finish the Any Man, I just stain coat them with an acrylic varnish. If you don't seal them, if it gets wet, it goes back to mush. But that's also a bonus, because like if I do a sculpture that doesn't turn out, I just take a hammer to it and put it in a big. It's a long process to get it back to reusable, because it'll go kind of liquid, and then I have to slowly dry it out to get it back to where I can use it. So what I'll do is I'll start out with the head, and I always use a chapstick to make the eyes. Chapstick. And I'll use a teaspoon usually for the mouth. Just something really simple like that. And then on the ones like I've had them holding chickens, and someone saw my one I did with an artist palette and a paintbrush. Those the extras I paint those, and so when I get the body finished, I will attach whatever the figure's holding with glue, and then I'll sculpt the hands and arms and let those dry, and then attach them to whatever it's holding. And so that's how I do those. So then I got in, and they're primitive on purpose, and they're kind of rough. I do a little bit of sanding on them so that they're not really rough. I do a little bit of sanding, but not a whole bunch. Then what I started was, I started doing, these are called my kidding around sculptures, and I do, let's see, I have some pictures here.
They don't move once you sculpt them, right?
No. If you want to start passing those around. And these are they're just fun. There's, I don't have a theme to them or anything like that, and they hang on the wall also. And I get these hangers at Ace Hardware and, or Home Depot, and you can get them in little tiny ones like this. And then I also, at a frame shop, I get, like, I get mirror hangers that'll hold 100 pounds, are the biggest ones that I've used before. And so I started sculpting the children's sculptures, and I found out that the clay just isn't, the paper clay isn't strong enough for the arms and hands and necks are very vulnerable. And so that's when I started doing the Premier clay, the one in red and white. So I do the arms and hands, and this clay shrinks a lot. So whenever you're doing a pair of arms and hands, you have to do them at the same time, because if it's very hard to get the same size over again and have the hands turn out the same way. And what I do is I use, this is armature wire that you can buy at Michael's, and it's very flexible, and it's not really strong, but it'll give you a shape to go by. And then when I'm ready to attach the arm and the head to the body, I just use a drill, and I drill holes for them. And this may look very short, but by the time the shoulder, this goes into where the shoulder is, it'll be a normal size. And let's see. So then I started doing, I call them my Yaya series, and I looked up and it said that Yaya is a ancient word in Greece for woman. And it's also, some cultures use it for grandmother or for a caretaker, and that covers a lot. So this is my Yaya series, from my Yaya series, and when I first started them, I was using wire co-hangers for the armature, because the arms need a little bit more strength, and so I used up everyone I know, everyone in my family, all their wire hangers, and you can't find them. So I went around to a few dry cleaning stores, and they wouldn't sell them to me. So then I went to this one, it was a chain dry cleaner, and the guy goes, well, how many do you want? I said, oh, a dozen, and he brought me out like 30. And so that's gonna last me for a while. And so on my Yayas, some of them will just hang by themselves, and some of them I mount to wood. And it goes around. And I get these wooden discs. I started getting them at Ace Hardware. They come in 3 different sizes, and this is the small size that they have. And I've gone up to one that is that was. I have two of them that I did that are 36 inches around, and they're very heavy. And I haven't tried to hang them yet, so I'm not sure I'm going to do that. But one thing that when you're working with a wood project, you have to think about the back. So after I prepare the front, I put my hanger on, and you know, when you have hangers, how they lean forward. So I put these, I glue these balls to the back, so that it is level hanging from the wall. And then also, if it's really heavy, I will use a dowel rod to, I drill a hole through the wood support, and then I will place the figure, and then glue it, and when the glue dries, I will just drill from the back that I made, through the hole that I made in the wood, into the figure, and then insert a dowel rod. And then also, but these are just done with, I use E6000, and there's not that many points that these touch the board for me to glue on. So I take these round balls, and I actually, it's glued to the board, and where it touches the figure, it's also glued. So that gives me a few more points to where the figure is attached to the board, and just gives a little bit of extra strength. And the E6000 works really well. When I first started, I was using epoxy, and then like a couple months later, the glue would fail, and then I finally found out that you can't have it on painted surfaces. So then I switched to E6000. And right now my current project is making these fairies. And at Hobby Lobby and Michael's, I found this stuff. It's on the label. It says that it's well, on the Hobby Lobby label, they call it a faux fur, faux leather, and it has kind of a stiff backing. And what I'll do is I'll take a wire and I'll shape the wing, then I'll cut it out of this stuff, and also you can get it in this size. And then I glue it to the wire, and then I'll come in with a little bit of paint that's the color of the wing, acrylic paint, and do it around the edges to seal up the edges. And I really like this stuff.
That's really neat.
I haven't tried this one out yet, but for the next fairy that I do, I'm going to use this. And so when I moved into the Yaya, like I said, when I took that workshop, I didn't learn how to make a face. So it was a real struggle for me to make a face and then repeat it. So what I did was I started making molds of my different faces, and like this one, when I made this one, I made it with the hair and the ears, but I usually just do the face. And what I make my molds from is this stuff. It's called Amazing Mold Putty. And if you've ever worked with it, has anyone ever worked with this? It comes in a kind of a off-white, and then a yellow. And what you do is you mix equal parts of this, and then you mix it until all of the off-white disappears and it's solid yellow. And then, so like you have like a 2-minute time where you can mix it, and then you have like maybe a minute before it starts setting. So when I mix it, and I'll just like roll it onto the face that I'm making the mold from. And then also, I found these at Hobby Lobby. They're fondant molds. And so I don't have the cutter for the flower, but for this butterfly, I roll out my clay kind of about an eighth of an inch thick, and I cut it out with this. Then you set it on the mold, and then press it together, and then I wipe away the clay, the excess clay, and I get this. And what I've done is I have painted it white, and then brushed the interference paint over the top of it. I've used these for 2 different projects. I'm gonna pass those around. And I just started with this size, because I make my mold for my face, and I will let that dry. And then I will use foil to build up the back of the head, and this comes up here in my hair too. There's foil under here. And then this one isn't done yet. I poke holes in the clay so that where it's thicker, it'll have more ways to dry inside. And sometimes it may feel like it's perfectly dry on the outside, but if you push hard enough and it gives a little bit, it's not dry enough to continue with it.
So now, do you fill it in after?
Yes, I'll cover this up with another layer. And yeah, I used to, I spend my, I don't sleep very well at night, so I would spend the night doing my sculpture, and then I happen to have a south-facing porch, and I put my sculptures out on my porch to dry in the daytime, if the weather permits. And then also, you can speed it up a little bit by putting it in the oven. And the Creative Paper Clay Company, I think they recommend like 200 degrees for like 20 to 30 minutes. I do it a little bit longer because I'm working in layers, but it does help speed it up. Right now, I'm working on a pear that will be this size, and these are the legs. And I start off with this carrot, and I build this up with my foil, and then I will just put on clay any old way, and then I will keep building it up to this. And then what I do when I'm doing my figures, my yaya figures, is I make the legs first, and I make them separately because I want to sand them smooth. And so, but while I'm making them, I will have my pear, and what I will do is I will press them together, and it makes a little indentation, so that right up here, so that when after I sand them, I'll put them back together, and then I will take tape, and I will tape them at the feet and at the knees, and then this came off a little bit, but I will put them together with the foil, and then I will, the first thing that I will make is the rear end, and it'll come down a little bit over this, and then I have my head established, and usually my bodies are about maybe 1.5 times the size of the head, or maybe just sometimes just one time the size of the head. Now on this one, I have started sanding it, but I brought it unfinished because I wanted to show you that there are still flaws in it that sanding won't completely take out. It'll distort the piece. So what I will do is I will go back and I will put clay into these little holes, and then when that dries, I will sand it smooth. Also, when I did this pair, I didn't do the foil big enough, and so I used a lot of clay. And so what I'm going to have to do for this pair is put a little more foil over this so that I'm not using as much clay, because the clay is kind of expensive. It used to be $10 at Hobby Lobby, and at Michael's it was $12. Well, Hobby Lobby just recently raised the price to $14. Yeah, so I have a place on the internet. It's called the Creative Paper Clay Company, and you can buy it from them for $6 a package, and they have a bulk package of 13 packages, and it's 13 because it just perfectly fits into a priority mailbox, and so you can get that for $78, 13 packages, and I've checked last month to see if they raised their prices, and they haven't. But you know, Hobby Lobby does and they don't do that 40% off coupon anymore. So sometimes I break down and I will buy a package from Hobby Lobby if I'm you know, desperate. Now on my heads I will make up a bunch of faces first, and then I'll make them into heads. And this is a project that I'm just starting, And one thing that I use these are those bamboo skewers that you can get at the grocery store.
Oh, for shish
And-
kebabs.
Yeah. So this is foil inside, and then I use this for a little bit of support. And I will make the body the same way that I did for the Any Man. And in this one, he's gonna be in a pair of overalls. My brother has red hair and freckles, so he's gonna have red hair and freckles. And I had made these chickens for a different project that didn't work out.
Those are
So
cute.
this farm boy is gonna be holding these chickens on the side, and I have to make legs for him, because in the original project they didn't have legs. So that's what I'm working on right now. Now this clay can be it can be drilled and it can be carved when it's dry. If you're drying it in the oven and it's not a really thick piece, if you dry it too much, it will become brittle, and so then you don't want to carve on it. But when y'all can come up here to see, I have you can see where I've done a little bit of carving on this to take away some excess clay. And what else? I use two main tools. This one I got from a doll making website, and this one I just got at Hobby Lobby. But you can also get them tools at the House of Clay over there by the Paseo. I believe it's 30th and Western, and then Hobby Lobby or Michael's. What else? Oh, my rabbit. Now, this has these hangers that will hold 30 pounds, but this only weighs 11 pounds. And I have ones that I've done bigger that are a little over 4 foot long, and they're holding riders, and those weigh up to 20 pounds. But I test hang everything that I make in my house, in my living room, mainly because I don't have room to store it, so it's on my walls, all over my walls. And this is, I will do the body with styrofoam. And Hobby Lobby used to carry sheets of styrofoam. They don't carry a good selection of it anymore. So, but Michael still has a selection of it, and it is expensive, so I buy it with a coupon. And what I will do is I will put the styrofoam together, and they say you can use hot glue to glue the pieces together, but I can't make that happen. I'm too slow with it and it dries.
It melts it
So
together.
what I will do is I will use these bamboo skewers like this, and I will put it through the pieces of styrofoam, and then when I get the pieces put together, like for the body and the head, I will use a steak knife and I will carve the styrofoam. And then like these legs, you can tell they're flat. They're just made out of. I cut the shape of the styrofoam out, and then one thing that is important is on the stuff that I'm doing that's kind of heavy, is on this back side I will cut either 3/16 inch masonite or a 1/4 inch MDF, and I will cut it like it's in this shape, and then I will put that on the styrofoam, and then cover it with my clay, so that the hangers have something to hold on to. And I discovered that if without that, the heavier stuff can pull out. So that's what I do to support the hangers. Now I have done some things. Well, I've done 2 of them, not some, and they're actually still full life size. And I found this old mannequin torso. It's just the front half, and so I use actually the newspaper and glue, and I do the shape of the mannequin, and then I have to do the hands and arms and the head and stuff, and I will attach that. And these I have mounted to 2 foot by 4 foot birch plywood. It's lightweight, but it's still kind of heavy. So those are the ones that I haven't tried hanging yet. But I have one in my living room that I'm tired of, so I'm gonna risk hanging one of them when my nephew comes over. So oh, and also one of the things that I do when I'm putting the clay together is I will use gauze cotton strips to wrap it around my foil armature to help the clay hold on a little bit better. And then also when you're working in layers in the clay, when I go to add the next layer of this clay, I will put it on top in a small section and press it into this, because if you try to do too big of a piece at a time, it will separate, and it kind of like expands, and then it won't hold on to the first layer. So you have to work in small layers and try to let them dry as much as you can in between your layers. Oh, and here's another one where I added the hair, and I didn't mean to add as much clay, so that you can see that I used a toothpick to poke holes in it so that the hair would dry. So,
Well, Suzanne, it's just about time for our break. Would you like to take a breather and we can do some refreshments?
well, yeah, I think I'm done. If everyone wants to come up and look at this, and
I have a question.
okay.
You've done some fantastic pieces.
Yeah.
Do you sell them?
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, my Anyman series, I had a friend who had a studio in the Paseo, but it wasn't on Paseo Street, it was on the block west on Lee Street. So it was more of a studio than a gallery, but I sold about 6 pieces through her studio.
The work is very kitschy and unique.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Yes,
Absolutely wonderful.
and I went through this business course, and I was wondering about pricing, and the guy that was directing the course, he said, well, find stuff similar on the internet that's similar to yours and price it by that. I haven't found anything that's like mine. But, and you know, the one thing that I hesitate about my Yaya series is that they are kind of fragile. And then I was thinking about it, and it's like, you know, if you break a ceramic piece, you can glue it back together maybe. But with this, I can fix almost anything. I just whittle away where the break was, put on new clay, let it dry, sand it, and paint over it again. And in fact, I had one piece. I think it was in the photos I sent around. The one of the rabbit with the moon on the board. Well, my friend opened her new teaching studio in Piedmont, and she put that on her wall, and it fell off, and it completely broke the rabbit. And she was like, "Oh my God, I'll pay for it and everything." I said, "Don't worry about it." And I was able to completely remake the rabbit without even taking it off of the board. So, and one more thing, I have some of my sculptures I have made into paintings, and some of my paintings I have made into sculptures. And so,
Very nice.
so,
I read some of your stories on the photographs.
They're awesome.